Question Time India tonight from the Congress Party, Vaila Ravi. From the BJP, Arun Jailtly. From the Third Front, Amar Singh. And our independent voice, Abhishek Singhvi. Hello and welcome to BBC World. This is Question Time India. At a time of this political crisis, we have a large audience ready and waiting to grill our panel. And on our panel tonight, we have Mr. Vaila Ravi from the Congress Party. He's one of the senior most members and a current Rajya Sabha MP. From the BJP, Mr. Arun Jailtly, on the national executive of his party and one of the finest Supreme Court lawyers in this country. From the Third Front, Mr. Amar Singh from the Samajwadi Party. He's the National General Secretary of his party and one of the key players in this current crisis. And our independent voice tonight is Abhishek Singhvi, again one of India's finest Supreme Court lawyers and a constitutional expert. Thank you all very much for being with us today. For our first question, let's go straight across to Mrs. Shubha Sundarmurthy.
I have a very simple question to ask, but I'll be really surprised if I get a straightforward answer. Who is going to win this vote of confidence?
Simple question, simple answer. Who's going to win?
Shall I say somebody is going to lose? That is the Prime Minister.
Either way. Why do you say that? Even if he wins the vote, he'll lose, or you mean he's going to lose the vote?
He will lose the votes, and he will lose because naturally his confidence motion will lose. That's our inference.
But tell me, are you expecting a very narrow?
It is a neck-to-neck race, and as you rightly said, all the press report today, the computer or this number game is going on. So naturally, as it is today, it is difficult for Mr. Vajpayee to carry on.
But can I, should a country's future be decided on one or two votes?
A situation developed as a coalition politics has come to that stage. Naturally, it is a passing phase. We cannot predict anything, but it can be changed in after this is a process. The political process is passed through. In my state, in Kerala, for the last quarter century, we are experimenting coalition politics successfully, I should say.
Yes, Arun. Back to the question: who's going to win?
I think only the last votes will decide who really wins. And today, before the vote is taken, for anybody to give a categorical answer to that may not be possible. My party is very optimistic. I think we'll win. But may I respond to Mr. Ravi? I think for Mr. Vajpayee, it's an all-win situation. If he wins, he gets the image which Mrs. Gandhi got in 1971. Everybody, including half a dozen of those who are being prosecuted under Prevention of Corruption Act, have all ganged up, and he still cracks that syndicate and wins. If he loses, it's an awkward combination which he knows can never come to power and never govern. That combination will self-destroy itself and expose itself, again leading to a great sympathy and support for Mr. Vajpayee.
Amar Singh, you of course agree with that.
No, I agree with my friend Mr. Ravi.
Your new friend.
No, he is my old friend.
Old friend and you.
And let me tell you categorically clear, we have got serious differences with Congress. I am telling you on record. But that has got nothing to do with, my friend Arun Jailtly is far more personally close to me as compared to Mr. Ravi. I am a different kind of person. I don't mix politics and personal relationship. So neither he is a new friend nor he is a new friend. You have called all my friends today. Thank you, Prannoy. I have got one concern. Dr. Kalyan Singh from UP has arrived yesterday with Kalyan doctrine. The Kalyan doctrine of purchase, sale, and I have got definite information and knowledge that he has deployed UP officials, bureaucrats, and they are going with money bags, that administrative muscle and monetary muscle. I am not accusing Vajpayee of that because I don't have any evidence, or popularly it is perceived that Pramod Mahajan is the person who does all that. Even I am not accusing him, but I am definitely in the knowledge of Dr. Kalyan Singh's arrival yesterday with his Kalyan doctrine. I don't know how far his Kalyan doctrine of Dr. Kalyan Singh will be successful, because he has successfully done it in UP. He was not having mandate, and exodus from Congress, Janata Dal and BSP has made it possible. Fortunately, not a single person of Samajwadi Party went for his help to his
No, but of course, Mr. Kalyan Singh himself would deny that he's using any financial
I'm telling you,
incentives. But what I'm,
as a responsible,
my question is that he succeeded in UP. Is he going to succeed here then? Are you giving up
I
already?
don't know, I'm little apprehensive ever since he has arrived, let me tell you.
So you're giving up already,
no,
is
no,
it?
I'm not given up, we are careful, and through you I will like to warn everybody concerned that we are in the knowledge of this, and that could be one reason of my friend Arun's optimism, that in spite of number games not inclined in their favor, they are still hoping against hope to win.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
I have other good reasons than the one Mr. Amar Singh suspects. Well, one thing is very clear about my party. We'll never have an alliance or any kind of adjustment with either of the two parties of two of my friends sitting here.
They say never in politics, right?
I'm quite certain. We are, you see, as far
Quite
as
certain, 50.
Congress and Samajwadi Party are concerned, we are a distinct ideological pole. I don't think we can ever come together. This is something which both of them also probably will not dispute.
You mean there's ideology in all this?
There is certainly an element of ideological perception where Congress and BJP, Congress and Samajwadi Party can never come together. But I think when Mr. Amar Singh calls Mr. Ravi a personal friend, certainly I'm very glad they're personal friends. But this friendship has a love-hate relationship. The Congress falls in love with this so-called third front when it induces them to either break governments. We saw it at the Charan Singh experiment, we saw it at the Chandrasekhar experiment, Mr. Gowda suffered it, Mr. Gujral suffered it. And I'm quite sure that's why Mr. Amar Singh is a little apprehensive this time. And I think his apprehension really adds to my optimism and hope.
But of course, he called you a friend also, right?
You cannot deny.
He and I are certainly very close
Okay.
friends.
Let
But
me
we
ask
politically
Abhishek.
never agree.
Politically we never agree. But
All this talk about corruption, money, etc., is it all exaggerated really? You know, each side accusing each other of using money to induce people. In the end, in the last vote of confidence, things went almost strictly along party lines. Is this really an exaggeration? Are we just accusing each other wildly?
Well, I think we've reached the nadir of Indian political life, so that no extreme proposition can be said today to be an exaggeration. Anything and everything is possible. To answer the lady's query, of course, honestly speaking, one would have to be a prophet or omniscient to know what will happen in the confidence vote. But the real point is not who will win or who will lose. The real point is that the country will definitely lose. The second real point is that in this country today, there is absolutely no ideology or value-based politics. We are perhaps the only country in the world where personal agendas have overtaken national agendas to such an extent that even everything which happens in politics is dressed up in an ideological hue, but in fact is entirely a matter of ego clash, personal clash, or short-term petty political gains. And that is why the collective psyche and the sentiment on the street today outside, and not being an active member of any political party, I am in the happy position of able to say so, is that all politicians collectively perhaps deserve to be thrown into the Arabian Sea. Now that issue, why we have reached
You'd
that
like
stage.
to see all politicians thrown into the Arabian Sea, and then
There are
India-
honorable exceptions here, of course.
With
honorable exceptions.
Thank you.
But the issue to be addressed is, why have we reached that stage? Why should the politician as a class be more reviled than any other class?
Then even lawyers, you mean?
Than even lawyers. Yeah.
Why is
We
that?
would- mainly because there is absolutely no ideology in our discussions, in our decisions, in our coalitions, and in our breaking apart of coalitions.
It's a bit of a totally cynical power game, you're saying.
Absolutely cynical and totally crude.
Totally crude. Let's take a gentleman right at the back on the right side there, right on the last row. Yes.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with the gentleman. And
You
I
think they should be thrown into the Arabian Sea,
No, no, no.
the politicians?
But I personally feel, as to what he said, the national interest is to more importance as a representative of the people. And the merits and demerits of a government should be taken into consideration instead of these personal whims and fancies of individual politicians.
Right. There's the gentleman on the third row here in the dark shirt. Yes, sir, with the spectacles. Yes.
Sir, I have another observation to make, and that is that financial irregularities in our country first came to light with the Mundra case right from the time of Prime Minister Nehru. And over the years, this financial irregularity has risen in scale from say few crores to 100 crores to across 1,000 crores.
There's been inflation, you see that.
This inflation in the corruption cases, yet for the last more than 4 decades, nobody who has been involved at a higher level has ever been punished. We hear of cases, prime ministers going to jail, presidents being sent to jail in other countries. Our neighbor has hanged one prime minister. Yesterday, they awarded 5 years imprisonment to the next prime minister, who is not the prime minister anymore. Yet, in this land of honest people, in this country of, high ideals.
Country of scams.
Nobody has ever been punished. How is it? How is our parliament permitted these people to grow to such a stature that they are able to drop the governments?
Let's just ask.
What is our legal system doing?
Let's ask Arun Jaitly, who's
Our
a lawyer
legal
also.
system
Let him
carries
answer your
on and
question.
on.
Right.
I have again 2 reactions, one to what Abhishek said and what the gentleman really says. I don't think it's only an expression of disgust with the quality of politicians that Abhishek says they be thrown into the Arabian Sea.
And most of the audience seems to agree with it.
Agree with him, perhaps rightly so. But probably what he really has in mind is, can't we change the basic quality of Indian politicians? I think this has been a gradual decline in the quality of people in Indian public life. If you were to ask me, and this relates directly to corruption, as to what ails Indian polity the most, power vests in the politicians. Politics, parliament influences the life of the country. The stature of men, by and large, with few exceptions, exercising that power has very little nexus to the kind of power they exercise. And therefore, you will find parties not electing leaders. A leader decides what the party would be. You have one-man parties and everybody is to blindly support that leader. You have people who can be accused of blatant corruption with prima facie evidence, and still they can be leaders of parties. And as far as our corruption laws are concerned, we've tried experimenting by amending them, making them tighter. I think the present Corruption Act in relation to politicians has completely failed. There's only one exception, somebody in the 1950s who was convicted and for a pre-independence offense. Therefore, for a 1946 offense in the state of Rewa, and thereafter nobody has ever been amongst the politicians. Almost, I think Tulmohan Ram was convicted. I think Mr. Amar Singh is being a little more specific. But nobody's been convicted. I think what we really require is to set up a special court, not in the traditional sense, with a 6-month time limit where cases against men in public life are involved. The second thing I think is that the Lokpal bill which has come into Parliament, by virtue of which 3 judges of the Supreme Court will hear complaints against sitting politicians, elected members of Parliament, ministers, prime ministers, and in case they find him guilty, they recommend to the House to disqualify him from politics or his membership altogether. I think these are the kind of legislations we have to think in. But unfortunately, the Lokpal bill is in Parliament and it's lying in cold storage.
Okay. Let me just ask you, Mr. Valaravi, this question about ideology. There's no ideology in the Congress strategy right now. It's just a question of numbers, is it?
I don't agree with there's no ideology is lacking in Indian politics.
What is your ideology in common with Jailtli?
No, just no. See, that is, we are an opposition party. We are an opposition party. We are no ideological cohesion with Jailtli at all. We are fighting each other.
But for that matter, what is the BJP's ideological affiliation with Jailtli? So, is there ideology? Is it devoid of ideology?
Jailtli is a partner of the BJP in election campaign and a coalition. I don't know what kind of ideology they have, but it is a political convenience that everybody in a coalition politics is more a convenience that comes. And political body and politicians as a whole, I don't agree with that they should be thrown to Arabian Sea. And that is
no, but they said excluding you. Huh?
No, I'm prepared to go. I'm living near to Alleppey, so very near Alleppey, so in Arabian Sea. But that is a concept. But who can say I am not corrupt? In the public also. And public also equally responsible for politicians. See, you said one-point agenda. One-point agenda was anti-Congressism this country all along. What happened in 1977? You take the whole history of India since independence. Somebody said about the Mundra case. Even Mundra case up to down to every scam. There was a JPC, there was an inquiry. LIC came after the Mundra case. And the action has been taken by the ruling party all along. But here in this case today, as Jailtly said, but he ignored it, the whole crisis came today not by the Congress. It is because Jailtli wanted JPC and she wanted an inquiry into corruption. Of course, she's competent, I am not questioning that. But we also want a JPC. What is preventing the present government go for a JPC, the serious allegation of corruption within Mohan Gurusamy is front of Mr. Jailtly, he himself make allegations, and the corruption allegation on defence purchase. Appointment of JP should have been over. There's no, the quarrel was not
Okay,
there.
let's take another question while you're on this from Mr. Arka Ray, who's an engineer. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the BJP has so long, all along, stood by its slogan, "Ya to Bhajpa, ya Chunav." Now it's talking to almost every party and trying to muster support to survive. Why is this sudden change of stance? Is the BJP so desperate to, stay in power?
I don't think it's a question of desperation to stay in power. If we were desperate, we would have done precisely what Mr. Vailar Ravi just now suggested, acceded to a Jayalalitha demand, which really arose out of our own sense of insecurity, but there was an ostensible pretext of a JPC put up. The BJP rejected her demand in toto because we were not keen to compromise at all costs. As far as the question of staying in power is concerned,
But Arun, I think I should ask you on this. For 1 year, you've acceded to almost every one of our requests. How can you now say
Alliance also.
that at this
For
stage
1
you're
year,
suddenly on
Prannoy,
principles and
for
you're not?
1 year, we
everything
have-
she's asked, you've
for
changed.
1 year, we have almost not acceded to almost all her demands. That is to say, she had
I think
exaggerated.
almost is a bit of
See,
exaggeration.
for the reason you had to have a ministers in the government because she was a party of a coalition. And that there lies an answer to your question, and what the gentleman asked is a very valid question.
Yeah.
Politics cannot accept a vacuum. This country cannot be without a government. And when you have repeated elections since 1989, throwing up mandates where nobody gets 280 seats on his own, you will have to find governments by virtue of coalitions. And coalitions will come from amongst the elected partners. So whoever, and that's in fact one of the tragedies of Indian politics today, that whoever wants to be in power will have to go in for parties which may even have a slightly different ideological position, because either you have a government or you don't have a government, you keep having different rounds of election. That's a politic of compulsion which everybody has had to resolve.
So you're saying the coalitions means that you have to compromise on ideology and principles to some
Obviously,
extent.
even in the national agenda, the BJP had to give up some of its own points.
The lady in the red on the left there,
Since we are always in this kind of a mess, have we ever thought or taken concrete steps to change the system from multi-party to a two-party or a presidential form?
Anybody want to take up that question? Yeah, Abhishek.
It's a very important aspect, these two aspects. Firstly, very briefly on the corruption aspect, which was
Yes,
the preceding
yes.
discussion. I think we are also a great nation of talkers and not of action takers. People tend to throw the Singapore example into the sea, along with the Arabian Sea example. Lee Kuan Yew, when he took over Singapore in 1965, inherited a country far more poor and far, far more corrupt than India. He is said to have written, and I've read that biography of his, that I decided that I would project an image of honesty. I'm basically an honest person. I come from a good family. I have enough wealth. He then created a body of anti-corruption bureau of about 10 or 12 hand-picked people who could be relied upon to be absolutely incorruptible. He then gave them power, absolute power, reportable only to him, to investigate, raid and scrutinize everybody starting from himself downwards. Within 2 years, Singapore eliminated corruption. Now, we have not ever, we are, as I said, a nation of talkers and also a nation of legalese. We tend to get tied up in legalese. Nobody, no political leader has the strength, the guts or the backing to be able to take this step. I'm not suggesting that Singapore and India are analogous. I'm not suggesting that what we do here will happen in the same time frame as Singapore. But certainly nobody has thought of making a start. That start alone will make a difference. Secondly, very quickly, I think we have inherited a Westminster form of government which is premised upon stable, large, bipolar or tripolar majorities. We are now running that system in a coalition governance sense. I think the lady made a very valid point. We are in acute necessity of considering methods and means, first and foremost, of reducing the number of political parties in this country. We have now a stage where a single one-man party or the lowest common denominator has a chance of becoming a prime minister, a deputy prime minister, a home minister, or 3 or 4. We have achieved the opposite result. The party with the smallest minority of votes and seats has the highest value for that vote and seat, because it can have the highest value of blackmail.
Perverse kind of situation.
Therefore, a simple change in the law, for example, that unless you get votes and seats above X percentage, you cannot be recognized as a national political party, which is already the law for symbols, for example.
Yes.
And by virtue of not becoming a national recognized political party, you cannot be a national government.
You can
Second,
be in
in
government,
power
you
in the
can't be in
center.
parliament.
You may have a regional combination, but not a government in the center. Secondly, a simple change, for example, experimenting with a variant of the German model. And I'm not saying it for political party A or B, but anybody who moves a no confidence must, along with that no confidence, provide a stable alternative.
So you can only vote a government out if you're voting another one
That's
in.
right. That's
It's
a
just
German
not a negative
constitutional
vote.
provision, and there's no reason
A lot
why
of
we
people are
shouldn't
talking
well.
about this, Amar Singh, that you can't just have a negative vote, I want so-and-so out. You can only replace somebody with somebody else, a kind of positive vote of no confidence,
See,
right?
I've got two things on this to say. Personally,
Yes.
not as a spokesperson of Samajwadi Party and Rashtriya Loktantrik Morcha, I would say I am not averse to this idea. This would have been an ideal situation if all of us would have been together and discussed alternative formation. This would have certainly given country and people hope.
Some government at least for 5 years.
And I am fully sure that some hopefully secular alternative will come, because as my friend Arun said, that in politics there cannot remain a vacuum for long. So immediately some secular alternative will come up. But it would have been an idealistic situation if Mr. Ravi's party and all third front parties. But unfortunately in this kind of situation where Mr. Vajpayee had to face lot of permutation and political combination, same is here in secular outfit also. There are a lot of contradictions. Chautala is saying that he is opposed to BJP, but under any circumstances he will not support Congress. And there are so many anomalies of this kind. So today there is unity on one aspect only, and that too for us also, nobody can blame us for adding any fuel to the fire, because this government is falling not because of Mr. Ravi or because of Mr. Amar Singh or our respective parties. It is falling because of their internal contradiction. Their pre-poll alliance partner Jailtly has withdrawn. Jaswant Singh and Jawhar Sahab, all these people could not convince her of late, and it has fallen because everybody used to be at our doorstep knocking, here we come, please listen to us. As you have rightly pointed it out to Arun, and he's a good lawyer, so he contradicted you nicely. So it has happened. So I don't think that if they are running short of MPs, this is not Congress party's responsibility, not Samajwadi party's responsibility to supply MPs on loan to BJP. So this is the kind of situation.
I don't think they probably wouldn't accept a loan, would you? Or you don't
I
mind
think,
for a short while?
Mr. Amar Singh is assigning to himself a role which we haven't given him.
But how about a short-term loan? No.
But coming to a separate point, what the lady says about a presidential system, let us bear one fact in mind. The parliamentary democracy, a multi-party system, in such a vast country, different regions, different languages, different kinds of people, was inherently more suitable. You had people from Nagaland and the Kashmir Valley and South, everybody participating in a decision-making process through parliament. But in case instability of this kind persists indefinitely and the quality thrown up by repeated elections does not improve, perhaps what she says may have to be considered.
Right. Let's go. Sorry. Yeah.
This point. This is not the presidential form is not an easy solution, as Arun rightly said. It's a vast country with different regions and different cultures and different people. The main reason of the unity of this country for the last 50 years is the parliamentary democracy, because there are a lot of outlets, and every political party is in power in India, either in a panchayat or up to the central government. Every political party.
Okay, I just want to ask you, Abhishek, that this talk about presidential form of government, everybody envisages the perfect president, an ideal for the country, but you can also get an unsavory character on top. So do you have enough checks and balances in a presidential form?
I suggested the alternatives of examining the German model or a more interventionist presidential role in the existing system, for the reason that I tend to agree with Mr. Ravi, that a presidential form of government is not the answer to our ills. It is not per se the presidential form of government which will improve things. As you know, Alexander Pope said, for forms of government let fools contend, whatever is governed best is best. And one is reminded of the saying, I think Mr. Palkiwala said, so that when your house is on fire, you don't engage into a discussion whether you should convert a study into a bedroom or a bedroom into a study, because you have to put out the fire at the moment. I think the presidential form of government involves two fundamental and structural changes in the constitution. And being a nation of debaters and legalists, we may go on debating it endlessly.
Which will never come
Which will never. So that within the parliamentary form of government,
you
can easily by small constitutional amendments either have a more interventionist president which is already happening. Without a constitutional amendment, because of coalition government and because of fractured consensus, you already have a more activist and a more interventionist president. Now you could formalize that by a few constitutional amendments. For example, you could provide that the president is empowered to direct all these warring and bickering groups to have a composite floor test in the House. You could have an amendment, as I said, of the German model, that you must provide an alternative when you move a no confidence.
So you say improve the system rather than make a radical change. Right, on that note, we'll take a short break and be back in just a minute to take more questions. This is BBC World and you're watching Question Time India. For our next question, let's go to Mrs. Manju Lal, who's a management consultant. Yes, ma'am.
I've got a very general question to ask. I think so it should be in the mind of a number of people sitting here. The Congress has called Jailtly as corrupt. And Jailtly has said that we cannot have a foreigner as a prime minister. But I fail to understand after these statements, how can the two even talk to each other, let alone become allies? So I want a answer
We
from
have not become allies so far. In fact, only she pulled out of the government, and we are utilizing that opportunity. That's all.
She's not going to be your ally.
It is not a no. It is not a decided. It is not. She was not an ally so far. Last election, let me finish. Last election, she was the ally of the BJP. Even after the
Just one second, let him just finish his.
last election, she was an ally of the BJP. They worked together, campaigned together, the same platform. Even that time, the corruption cases was against her.
So now you're learning from the BJP doing the same thing, is
no,
it?
we are not. We are not learning. We are only using. We are only, every political party will use the opportunity. That we are using the opportunity, that's all.
So you're using Jayalalitha?
You cannot say using Jayalalitha, using the opportunity.
Achha. Or are you using her or misusing her? That's also...
You know, she herself, herself came forward.
The gentleman here on the third row, on the left, yes.
My question to Mr. Ravi is that in your party never tolerated any non-Congress government, maybe in the state, maybe in the center. 1 point. My second point is that you ruled the nation for nearly 50 years, before 2-3 war also, and 71 war, the army captured 93,000 prisoners, 5,000 square mile area, which was given back to the country, that is Pakistan. Are you aware how many our prisoners or the soldiers are in Pakistan jail, and what you have done for that? Or your party has done?
Okay, we'll come to that. The gentleman on the left of you, yes, go ahead.
My question is, like Mr. Arun Jailtly told, Jailtly has been demanding more and more in past, and lately they have not accepted the demand. And you have also been saying the same thing. So would you oppose Jailtly coming to your party or supporting to you, or there should be some code of conduct? This type of act should not be repeated in future in Parliament.
Okay, there's another question on Jayalalitha, I think here, the lady in the green on the second row on the right, yeah.
I wanted to ask that whether you would accede to Jayalalitha's demand as the BJP has done in a number of cases, if not in all, but at least in many cases. Jayalalitha was a pre-poll alliance, had a pre-poll alliance with the BJP. In this case, it seems that she's pulling the rug out of the BJP's feet and is now going over to the Congress. What in that case will be the position of the Congress after, say, a vote of confidence tomorrow? Or in that matter, or for that matter, will the Congress keep acceding to her demands? There is a second issue to this question that I would like to join into, and that is this, that Bofors issue has been still not reasonably resolved. Will the same thing happen to the cases against Jayalalitha for which she has been charge sheeted or for which she is under trial?
First, as since today there is no agreement with Jayalalitha, and whatever the cases in the court, as to me, nobody, it will be proceeded and nothing can be done because it is in the court, and it is not fair on the part of any political party to give an assurance to withdraw our cases and do this, and there is no agreement at all. And only thing that at present stands the confidence motion and the decision of the Congress vote against it along with other political parties. Bofors is concerned, it was all the political parties, including Mr. Arun Jailtly, very much involved. His leader at that time said, it is in my pocket. Everybody is in pocket. Now we are asking, please come forward, do something. And the main question you asked, I am very glad you asked the question, what is the basis? There is an agent and paid commission. Now the allegation against the present BJP government is that 6,000 crores rupees of purchase going on in the defense ministry, including the Russian tanks. There are agents, there are commission. Then the demand is for a JPC as done by the Congress government. Why can't they accept this demand of a JPC to inquire into the corruption in the defense?
What's the big deal about a JPC? Why bring down a government over a JPC? I think let Mr. Jailtly answer.
I think
yes, we have.
There are 2 points which are made by Mr. Ravi.
Let Mr. Jailtly answer now.
What's the need of a JPC?
Right, carry on.
I think let us deal with the issue of corruption, JPC and Bofors, and the Jayalalitha factor which you mentioned. It was mentioned that BJP was conceding to some of her demands. Jayalalitha's 2 major demands were dismiss Mr. Karunanidhi, and obviously she wanted her cases withdrawn. Now this was something which was very fundamental, which the BJP even refused to negotiate at any stage. If she had 18 MPs, she was certainly entitled to 1 or 2 or 3 ministers, which is a secondary matter. As far as the issue of corruption is concerned, Mr. Ravi can't be content with the fact that Mr. VP Singh said in 1990, I have the names in my pocket. I must say to Mr. VP Singh's credit that it was during his 10 or 11 months that the process was set into motion, and it was that process which has revealed that eventually the Bofors money, amongst others, landed up with Mr. Kothrochi. Mr. Ravi can't say that what is the proof. Well, the Swiss have officially said that Mr. Kothrochi was paid. Now, who was Mr. Kothrochi? Mr. Kothrochi's accountability does not have to be made by Mr. Mulayam Singh or Mr. Vajpayee or Mr. VP Singh. It is unfortunately, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi is no more there. But since he was Mrs. Sonia Gandhi's gift to this nation, it is she and she alone who must answer that why was Mr. Kothrochi paid. As far as the question of JPC is concerned, a JPC is appointed into some allegations which shocked the conscience of the whole nation. Bofors demanded a JPC. The stock exchange scam demanded a JPC. Yes. But here yesterday you had Mr. Sharad. Therefore, it shocked the conscience of the country. Yesterday you had Mr. Sharad Pawar getting up in Parliament and saying, I am not saying that there is any allegation of corruption. I am not even referring to them. I am not even accepting what Admiral Bhagwat has said. But what he says, have a JPC. Now, here was a case where an officer who was prima facie guilty of indiscipline, I don't go to anything else, the government takes action against him. He refuses to accede to a civilian authority. The government takes action against him. In a matter of an employee-employer relationship between a civilian authority and an officer of the armed forces, you don't require to bring the armed forces into controversy by having a JPC. There is prima facie no case for a JPC.
Okay, since we are getting on to legal issues, let's bring another lawyer into this.
I think this is a perfect example of how lack of ideology and value and issue converts into a political issue, and we really start doing shadow boxing. Both in Bofors, it's my opinion that both in Bofors and now in the Bhagwat issue, the JPC is really a case of shadow boxing. If people are really interested in getting to the truth, either in Bofors or here, you had to have either structural mechanisms like the Lokpal Bill, which no politician and no political party is interested in doing, or criminal prosecution. In fact, a JPC has usually, historically in this country, been an excuse, a perfect excuse for masterful inactivity. What happens in a JPC? A JPC is a very large, unwieldy group of politicians who sit endlessly, who go into records and then give a report which is of absolutely no use because it has no immediate efficacious implementation value. It doesn't convert automatically into a prosecution or into any other form of sanction.
In fact, it converts corruption into a political issue.
As a matter of fact, as I said, the old saying, which I always say when I don't mean it for any particular group, as they say, a committee is a group of the unfit, appointed by the unwilling to do the unnecessary. A JPC is a perfect example, as along with our commissions of inquiry, of that. Now, if there is true political will, whether for the Bofors or for the other things, it would be necessary either to have in place these structural mechanisms or to have in your common minimum program before an election, apart and devour the coalition, every party to state that we declare that all prosecutions in progress or all required to be filed shall be untouched by whichever party comes into power. Why does no party do that? Why does no pre-poll alliance state?
Too many skeletons
categorically? Because they want to keep their options open. That's the real reason.
Incidentally, the Bofors JPC did not see Mr. Kothrochi. It said these were not commissions but merely winding up charges.
So
the JPC was used for a cover-up operation.
Right, let's just move on to the next question from on the right side here, on the fourth row. Mr. Tappan Biswas, who's a businessman. Mr. Tappan Biswas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoever wins or loses the vote of confidence, should not all parties get together and pass the budget and some other important bills pending in the parliament?
Let me ask Amar Singh, who's been very quiet, I think, in this, and watch the other attack each other. Why don't you at least pass the budget, pass the patents bill, pass the insurance bill, and then get into your politics?
Well, Mr. Yashwant Sinha said that no financial business will take place unless we seek a vote of confidence. When the Honorable Finance Minister of India himself is saying that, and now circumstances and events have taken place of and precedence for all these matters. So I
don't you think that, I mean, it's a shame on this country that some basic agreements you can't come together
you
and
see,
let the country run and then get into?
I was quiet. Even on JPCs, there is a large amount of selectivity. There should be JPC on all corruption cases. Why only on Bhagwat case? Why not on the steel scam? Why not people talk of commissions? There is a glaring example.
No, now you're moving away from the budget.
That entire urea was, consumed.
Fine. Just 1 second. The question was on the budget. Mr. Vaila Ravi, why don't you at least let the budget go through?
Yes, I agree.
And then go into all this.
Definitely the government should have come forward and tell the opposition that this week we pass the budget. Hurry up in one day, no speeches, we can pass it easily. Then we can take up the confidence motion Monday. It have been definitely,
And you would have supported that? The Congress
definitely, Congress was thinking that line. The government may come forward. Then let us agree. That was thinking in the Congress to agree if the government come forward. But unfortunately, the government never came forward. Only came with the Congress motion.
Why did they rush into it?
The Congress went to the President along with a delegation of other parties and insisted that Mr. Vajpayee be asked to seek a vote of confidence. Mr. Vajpayee at this stage could not be seen to be dithering. He used the first opportunity for a vote of confidence, the budget would come. Incidentally, I support the question which he asked. The last 4 days have cost the small investors in this country. The last 4 days have cost the last 4 days have cost the small investors of this country on the stock exchange 50,000 crores. That's your Star News this morning.
Which is more than an election anyway. 10 times, you can have 10 elections for that.
That's what the cost of the last 4 days.
I want to make here a point which goes a little away from the politics of it into a structural point. Your example of the budget can be duplicated. There are several other issues of pressing imminent importance for the country which ought to be passed irrespective of which government, which combination is in power or is going to come into power. This is a recurring problem. I think the answer to that has to be a structural and legal answer. I think the problem arises partly because of what I see as the tyranny of the majority in each political party. We have a device in the parliament known as a whip. The whip, interestingly, is a totally aconstitutional device. There is no constitutional sanction for it. It is not in any statute, it is not in any basic document. It is therefore no legal sanction in that sense.
No, and
yet,
anti-defection law there is.
Now, therefore, the anti-defection law, this is what I was coming to. Anti-defection law, the 10th schedule, was enacted for the larger purpose of preventing defection. It's a very noble object. A way has to be found that consistent with the 10th schedule anti-defection law, which says, for example, that defiance of a whip may constitute a defection and therefore liable to expulsion or losing a seat. That is for a different purpose when people change parties or change sides. But during a debate and a discussion or a vote on a particular issue of national interest, like the budget, why do we not have a system whereby for that vote you suspend the whip? You allow each member of parliament to vote according to his conscience.
You and this like example, conscientious objectors sort of
yes,
thing.
Today, when we deplore the lack of ideology, the lack of values, the lack of issues, one of the reasons for it is that there may be a large mass amongst the 562 MPs in this parliament who believe in the right thing. They believe in the right issue, they believe in the right result. And I'm not talking pro-BJP or anti-Congress or pro-Mulayam. The question is that they may want to vote cutting across party lines for something they perceive to be in the larger national interest. Today they have no choice. They have no option, they can't do so, because they do so only on pain of losing their seat. Now, consistent with the 10th schedule, keeping aside the floor crossing and the party crossing, you could have a system whereby on issues of such importance, the whip is suspended, let each MP vote according to his conscience, and let, if that conscience leads to a result which is contrary to public interest, then so be it.
You're terrifying all these politicians by making these kind of suggestions.
To an extent I agree with you. I agree with you to an extent. Even the insurance bill and patent bill, people like me want to have a free vote. Even though in opposition, we want a free vote.
And vote of confidence, would you like to have a free vote
No,
there?
no, no. That is a party matter.
Okay, on that note, we'll take a short break and we'll be back in just a minute. This is BBC World and you're watching Question Time India. For our next question, we go to Mr. Manik Chatterjee, who's an engineer on the left side. Mr. Chatterjee, yeah.
You didn't call me.
Just one second, Mr. Chatterjee.
After India carried out the nuclear test in Pokhran and followed by a similar test by Pakistan, Indo-Pak relationship nosedived. It required a historic bus journey to Pakistan by no less than the Prime Minister of India to improve the relationship. This week, we have again carried out tests on Agni 2, followed by similar tests by Pakistan, Gauri 2. Aren't we back to the arms race again?
Is this an arms race? We fire, they fire, and every time we fire, they fire as well. So it sort of nullifies whatever we do.
I think both the steps, the nuclear stress, as also the testing of the missiles, as also the bus journey,
Are they all in the same bag?
A combination of two perhaps secures our interests the most. Our relations have improved, our security scenario has also improved.
The fact, but I mean, it's all very well to say that, but the fact that they fired a long-range missile which can reach any city in India and a medium-range missile that can reach Delhi and Mumbai, how can you say our security is improved? It seems
I think...
I mean, it's like war for peace, right?
It's not a question of war for peace. We've made it very clear that we don't intend using it. But the fact that we are a nuclear nation today really strengthens our position against the possible use of such by any of our neighbors with whom traditionally we had not been on the best of terms.
So there's no compromise on national security. The Pokhran 2, Agni 2. The whole thing started quarter century ago. Pokhran 1 started. It was the beginning of asserting our nuclear capacities. And I agree, we all agree on one point, there is no compromise on national security.
So they're all trying to claim credit for it, right? Let's go to Ms. Jasleen Kapani, who's a PRO on the left side. Ms. Jasleen Kapani?
Yeah, my question, sir, to you is that will India have general elections this year in 1999? If yes, how early would that be?
Amar Singh, you are the man who knows the future.
Not really. The future is known to Mr. Kurian and his party leader, because being largest party,
the Congress,
it will be really in their hand.
So what do you think? Will there be elections in 1999?
See, and if so, very difficult because I don't have any access to number 10 Janpad. I have not met Sonia Gandhi so far.
But if you're a betting man, would you say, what would you bet? Elections this year or not?
I think there is all possibility of election because election may happen this year at least. If not immediately, then by the end of this year, it seems to be unavoidable. But this is my guess. I don't want election to be imposed on country. It will not be a good thing.
No, but you're saying that whatever the factors, it's leading in that direction.
It may happen, I say.
The result of the last Lok Sabha election had an element of instability built into it. People predicted government for weeks or months. It lasted already 13 months. I think with Mr. Amar Singh's current disillusionment with the Congress party, perhaps maybe we may skip over this year.
So no elections this year, you think?
It doesn't look like.
But Congress, what do you think?
I think I agree with Arun, what he correctly said. The last result, election of the last result itself is inbuilt instability, is correct. And it is still the confidence, still the government continues, only we can say what happened tomorrow only. That I believe the people perception is to not to run to election all the time. That is the general perception of the people. I think every political party must understand this public sentiment, that's all.
But will there be elections? That's the question.
Maybe,
yes or no?
I can't predict there's an election, but it's better to have in a century. Better to have
in the next century. Better to have, but one second, let's take a person there. What's the question, sir?
My question is, if they agree that, why can't they allow BJP to continue for 5 years?
Why don't you allow the BJP to continue for 5 years, he says.
Why can't you put other way? Why can't we to form a government on Monday? Why can't you ask that question?
Okay, let me ask Abhishek, will there be elections? One second.
It's a question, it's like the first
Yeah,
question.
that is why you are sitting here, because of this modern technology, because our achievement of 50 years.
It's like the first question involving prophecy, and therefore nobody can say, but I do think that arithmetically elections in the very near future are inevitable. However,
the arithmetic of the situation,
is such that either way, even if the incumbent government survives on Monday, elections may be 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks away.
Whoever wins, it's a fragile kind of situation.
The real question, however, is that whatever happens between now and the election and through the elections, there is likely to be no governance. So there is a government, but there will be no governance.
Is that a good thing or bad thing, actually?
Extremely bad thing. Extremely bad thing, and that is where, while recognizing and accepting the inevitability of elections, which as realists we must accept, and all political parties must accept, we must have a common program to ensure at least governance between now and the post-election scene.
But is no governance better or worse than bad governance?
Bad is a subjective word. I would say that...
I mean, whichever party is in power.
That's, according to me, all political parties have reduced themselves to the same level of incompetence.
Maybe no governance is
therefore, in that sense, at least between now and then, there should be an agreement on common issues for governance. Because I think all of them are equally bad. Okay. In which case, there is not much to choose from.
We have a question from a... One second. We have a question from a student now. Ms. Tulika, who's a student. Yes, ma'am. Where are you?
Yes, this question calls for a very honest answer. For a politician of
honest
today,
answer you want to ask. You're lucky you've got this panel.
But when the
one second, let's have the student's question.
Gone down, how can we expect
go ahead.
For a politician of today, if it had to be decided among themselves, the country and the party, then who comes first, second and third? It's your choice.
Individual, party and country. What is your order of priority? Frankly, honestly.
Frankly, I should say that individual is the last. And definitely there is the issue based. The issues concerned, the national security or national interest concerned, it must be the priority. But when the party and collectively take a decision, an individual has to go. If you want to remain in the party, or collective decision of the party has to prevail occasionally.
So individual last, but tough choice between party and country, neck and neck.
The collective decision of the party survives.
Honest answer.
I don't think there can be any two views that all political parties really must be a nation-first party.
Or at least say they are.
At least what they honestly believe to be in the interest of the nation, they stand by it. And therefore, there should be a nation-first party rather than try and break up the countries or break up the governance of the country or create a situation which hurts the economy of the country.
But in the action, they act individually first.
As far as actions are concerned, this goes to the earlier point I made. Because of a general decline in the quality of Indian politicians, a lot of politicians behave on me first.
That's an honest answer. Amar Singh, you first or country first or party first?
Country first, party second and me third.
I think the answer, the question has the answer inbuilt into it. The normative and the positive are both clear. The normative is it has to be country first. That's sadly and without overstating it, it's not the reality. As a matter of fact, the reality is I in the first, I in the second, and I in the third as well.
Okay, and another student actually, Mr. Jatin Singh, who's a student.
In this environment of horse trading, my essential question is, especially if I take into consideration the Kalyan doctrine, what is the going rate for MPs right now?
No. No comment on grounds of self-incrimination.
What is the going rate for MPs?
No. From 1 crore to 4 crore?
No. Both of them, he's wrong. Both of them in Rajya Sabha, we have no value now. We are devalued.
Okay, Lok Sabha MPs, What is the going rate? Mr. Rabri? Don't look that way, he's asking the question.
He must
I only wish Jailtly can say the exact amount.
They must all three invoke the protection against self-incrimination.
I certainly don't deal in this business. But
from what you hear, some of your friends.
I'll be extremely sad if there is one. I'll be sad for the system. I'll be sad for this country.
But you may be sad. What do you think is the reality? Is there a going rate right now?
I think more than rates, perhaps, it is people trying to settle or resettle their own political position.
You don't think it's a financial thing?
For example, take the left parties. Now the left parties by and large were believed not to be in such a game. Mr. Surjit of late has reduced them to that game. Now you have a position where two of their constituents, RSP and Forward Bloc, are saying, we don't agree with the Surjit doctrine of supporting a Congress government. So it's not a going rate. They've taken an ideological position.
So they're saying, you're saying it's not so much a going rate as a political...
The DMK has taken a position, now that the left has deserted us, and Jailtli and Mrs. Sonia Gandhi and the Congress have met, therefore we have to politically reposition ourselves. I think it's a process more of political repositioning which is on.
Rather than money.
I think there's an irony in this question. I think the sad state of recurrent elections, recurrent coalitions, recurrent breakups has in fact meant on the rate question that one good thing which has happened is the rate, whatever it has been or if it exists, must have substantially come down.
Because
for the simple reason that there is no longevity and there is no certainty that the rate you invest will get you a good return for a long enough time. And therefore,
whatever it is, I think the answer to your question is that it's still a good business. It's still a good business to be in.
Certainly some of them are.
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
Right. Right, I'm afraid we've completely run out of time. Thank you all very much for being with us. Thank you. That's it for tonight. 3 weeks from now, we go to Calcutta. And if you want to join us in the audience in Calcutta, please contact us at these numbers, 033-464-5548. That's 033-464-5548. Or you can email us at qti@ndtv.com. From now, for all of us here, bye-bye.